everyone, it's Amit. So in this video, what I wanted to talk about is the process for buying a home. This video is the second part of a 4-part series. In the earlier video, I had talked about how much home can you afford and how to do the math around that. So now let's go into the next step, which is what is the process associated with buying a home. So this channel is focused on enhancing your financial acumen such that you can make better financial choices. Therefore, if that's the kind of stuff that strikes your fancy, subscribe to the channel. So let's get cracking. So there's really 9 steps when it comes to buying a home. So the first step is basically go ahead and get pre-qualified for a loan. So you'll have to go to a lender. You'll have to identify a lender. You'll have to go to that lender. And then you'll basically have to say, okay, go ahead and pre-approve me for a loan. This is a critical part of the whole process. And the reason why I say that is usually if you find a home that you really like during your home buying journey, the seller is going to ask you, okay, are you pre-qualified for a loan? And if you do not have documentation to support that, what it might result in is the seller just walking away from the whole thing, right? Because they're not interested. They're not even going to entertain an offer, or I know I wouldn't entertain an offer without knowing that you are actually a legitimate buyer, somebody who has the finances to actually support a buying decision, right? So that's how that whole qualification process works and why that is so important. The next step, the second step, is to identify a real estate agent. So a real estate agent, I know people have some differing opinions about that, right? So with new tools that are coming out, just like utilizing Redfin, there is sometimes a discussion in terms of, is a real estate agent actually useful towards helping you purchase a home? And the short end of that, at least from my view, is that a real estate agent is very useful. The reason why I say that they're very useful is because the real estate agent will at least reduce the population, the inventory of houses that are out there that will effectively meet your needs, right? So if you say, I have these requirements that I want to see in a house, the real estate agent would essentially do all that legwork for you, right? And support you through this whole home buying journey. And that's why the real estate agent is very important. Now, the real estate agent, the way they get paid is basically the seller pays them a commission. Okay, so even though the buyer would have a real estate agent, it is out of the seller's pocket that buyer's agent also gets paid. So what usually happens is the seller will have their own real estate agent. The buyer will have their own real estate agent. Now, as a part of the agreement which the seller will have with his agent, it would likely say something to the effect of, you'll have to pay me a 6% commission or a 4% commission or whatever the number is based on the value of the sale. Then what happens is the seller agent and the buyer's agent would essentially split that commission 50-50, right? So if the decision was made that we're going to have a 6% real estate commission on the sale of this deal, whatever the value is of that sale that actually happened, 3% would go to the buyer's agent and 3% would go to the seller agent. So now say you found a home, right? You like a place. The third thing you need to do is reassess your financing options. Okay, so I know you went ahead and you got pre-qualified for a loan. You found a lender in that manner. But it's important to just kind of like have a relook at it, right? Really shop around, really try to find a good mortgage company, a good lender company that's willing to support you. Also do some incremental research, because if you're a first-time buyer, there are certain other benefits that are available. For example, there are certain state programs, there's HUD options, there's HUD options, so all of that needs to get evaluated. Not only that, when you're looking around for financing options, different companies have different closing fees that they're willing to negotiate. So those are the types of things that you want to look on, because it's important to get the best deal possible, right? You want to get the best interest rate, you want to get the lowest closing costs, right? Because those things are going to impact your bottom line directly. So go ahead and reassess or look at what the various financing options are that are available to you and find the one that is most appropriate for you. The next step, or the fourth step, is go ahead and make the offer. Partner with your agent in terms of what that offer is going to look like. All right, you guys should have a pretty good understanding of what that is. So some people, they generally put in like 10% below list price. Now, of course, if you're in a housing market that is just flying high, then you may even need to come in over, whatever the list price was for that home. But work with your real estate agent. They'll give you an assessment in terms of what the sale price has been for other houses in that particular area. They'll give you a feel of how quickly the properties are getting off the market, and then you can go ahead and put your offer in. When you put your offer in, the seller can do a couple of things, right? They can counter it, or they can outright decline it. If it's too far off what they're looking for, they'll probably just go ahead and outright decline it. If you're close enough to what they're looking for, they may just put in a counter offer, or they may just go ahead and accept it. So once that offer acceptance process is concluded, right, the fifth step relates to putting in a good faith estimate. So you're basically, what you're doing is you're taking the house into escrow. So what I mean by that is the seller will now go ahead and take that house off the market. They'll take that house off the market and will allow the potential buyer, which is you, to go ahead and do a homeowner's inspection as an example. We'll talk about that in the next step, but taking that off the market, putting some funds into escrow basically further enhances the position that you're a legitimate buyer, right? You're somebody that's actually very interested in the house and you're willing to take it to the next step. So that good faith estimate is something that you would need to put in. That if things don't work out in the home inspection process, as an example, you can definitely take that money back. Now, this escrow period generally lasts about 30 days. Now, the next step, or the sixth step, is to do that home inspection. Your real estate agent may be able to provide you with a home inspector as well, or at least recommendations for a home inspector. Now, the home inspector will almost always find issues. They'll find issues with the house. And you want to know what those issues are. I mean, that's what they're getting paid for, okay? So they're going to find problems with the home. Some of them are going to be less significant, some of them potentially more. But it's very important to know what those things are going into it, right? It would be horrible, or it would suck if you bought the place and then you found out all these problems that could have easily been identified through a home inspection process. Further, the report that the home inspector issues can be used for some reasons, right? It can be used to maybe get a credit from the seller, right? The seller, you'll say that, hey, this is $10,000 worth of fixing that's needed, so we want you to give me a credit for it such that I can essentially do that work for you. Or the seller may say, you know what, I'll just do this $10,000 worth of work and let me just go ahead and fix it. Or the third option would obviously be, let me just take it off the list price, right? So the list price is $300,000. There's $10,000 worth of fixes needed on it. So they may just drop the asking price to $290,000, right? And accept the offer at that point. So there's like various things that can happen. So that's where the home inspection can actually be used as a negotiation tool to further get the value on the home. So then after that, right, you're entering now the closing phases of the home. Okay, so what your lender will likely do at that point is they'll ask you to do another home appraisal. So what that home appraisal is the bank or the lending institution, whatever it might be, credit union, whatever it is that you're using, some online brokerage, so on and so forth, right? They want to do an assessment of the value of the home, right? They want to understand, okay, we've received all this paperwork, but now let us have our own people go out and check it out, right? Let's go see what this house is the value appropriate, and should we be extending financing in that manner? So that's all the purpose of this appraisal process. And you can obviously get a report of what this home appraiser actually comes up with, right? And you can add those to your files as well. But it's an important step. The banks or the lending institutions are not going to move forward unless that appraisal is effectively done. So after that is done, right, the next step is the lender will want to do a title check on the property. Okay, so the title check basically makes sure that the seller has got title of the property, right? Or the title of the property, if they had a mortgage on it, as an example, is owned by, it's owned by a lender, but they want to make sure that that particular title is clear, right? There's no other encumbrances on it, right? There's nobody else who's got a stake into it, because you want to know that information up front. If you don't know that information up front, and if in the future that somebody else lays a claim on that property, it's going to be a problem, right? And the lender absolutely wants to know that as well. So they will want to do a title check and ensure that the title is in fact clean. The other part that happens in the same process is you'll need to get title insurance. And the reason for that is simple, right? So in the future, if there is a problem and somebody else lays some stake to that particular property because something was in default or there's some other issue associated with it, right? If you don't have title insurance, right, then they can come after that home. And that would obviously put you in a difficult situation, right? But you're basically taking an insurance on that title check, right? The title check that the title company has basically done. So that's where this title insurance is a very, very important part of this whole buying process. So if you've made it this far, right, the last step is the signing frenzy that basically happens. And they will have these stacks and stacks of documents. You'll probably have your attorney there as well, right? There will be representation from the seller's party as well. They'll probably have your lending institution, and you'll just go on the signing frenzy of signing up on a ton of your documents, right? It'll be like you're selling your soul, basically, right? Because it's such a significant purchase, typically, right? There's lots of documents that need to get signed off on. Some of them are disclosures, some of them are protections for yourself, protections for the lending institution. There's just lots of things that need to get navigated through, but that's kind of like the last step of the process. And then for what happens typically is you'll get your keys to the house at that point in time, right? And then you basically have taken possession of that home. It's a journey, okay? This whole 9-step process, it's an absolute journey. So I hope you enjoyed the contents of this video, right? So in the next video I'll talk about is, okay, so you have now owned the home and you've been in it for a while and interest rates drop or whatever, right? And you decide that, hey, I want to refinance this particular property, right? And if you're going to refinance the particular property, there's various ways around that, and that's basically the thing that I'll be talking about in the next video. So again, thank you for taking the time to view this video. If you like the contents of it, definitely hit the like button, and I will see you soon.